Okay, I'm gonna attempt to do a little bit of lighting today. So, to do lighting, if you've just been working around in a typical project, first thing we're going to have to do is make sure we have the universal render pipeline. If we were in 2020, we want universal render pipeline. If we're in 2019, we might want lightweight render pipeline. Um, but let's just look in our package manager and you'll see universal render pipeline or lightweight render pipeline. Again, if you're in 2019, but we're in universal render pipeline, so we're going to use that. Make sure that's installed and enabled. And to get that to work, we need to make sure in project settings, we need to make sure that there's a scriptable render pipeline asset, which there isn't currently. So I'm just going to create it, and I'm just going to create it in my scene directory because this is, well, anyway, it's just a convenient place to put it. So we'll go to rendering, universal render pipeline, pipeline asset, and by default, it's going to also create a forward renderer, some data for a forward renderer. So you'll see we wind up with um, a universal render pipeline asset and universal render pipeline asset renderer asset. Now, one of them you can drag in there, which is the universal render pipeline asset. We'll drag that in there. Now, the next thing you need to do is you'll notice that it is actually using the universal render pipeline asset underscore renderer, right? There's the forward renderer data that it created there. Now, in our case, we want this to be 2D, so we need to change that. We need to have it use some 2D data. So in order to do that, we're going to right click again and create rendering universal render pipeline 2D renderer, right? So we can create another forward render for it, but we're going to create a 2D renderer. And there that is, new 2D. And you'll notice it looks kind of similar to the other one. So what we need to do is select this one, our renderer pipeline asset, and pause, or lock that, and drag this into here. So new 2D renderer data, renderer 2D data. Okay, so now I'm kind of set up. Let's unlock this, and you'll notice nothing really changed in here. But if I do drag in, say, a new sprite now, I'm going to drag in Knuckles, you'll see that Knuckles is dark. Knuckles is basically unlit, because now if I drag in a new sprite, it's going to be using the sprite lit default material. And if I don't want it to be lit, I can always select that and go to a sprites, what do we have here? Sprite default material. And that's kind of an unlit, and here's sprite lit default, sprite, unlit. We have that option. We can always go back and make sprite or make Knuckles an unlit sprite. But we're gonna go ahead and make him a lit sprite. And the other cool thing is we can go after the fact and say, okay, maybe our hero here needs to be using the sprite lit default. Now, you may notice if you go back and choose an older one, it doesn't know about the new materials. So what I've done, you can also create specifically, if you want to specifically create a new material. So we'll go into the sprites direct. Doesn't matter where you put these. I'll put that in here. I'm going to create a material, right? And universal render pipeline sprite lit default, that wound up being what it happened to be using by default, right? You can choose, and now universal pipeline sprite lit default, that's my new one. Let's name it Eraser Mice Sprite Lit. All right, that's my Eraser Mice Sprite Lit material. And I can choose now, that one will show up here. Eraser Mice Sprite Lit, boom. Just select that. I think I just made the arrow. Let's see, let's try to select that whole guy. Erasing my sprite lit. And it's using universal sprite lit default. All right, should be. Lines, baked lit, simple lit, 2D, sprite lit default. Okay, it's using the right thing. Oh, that's the arrow. Hero. Hero, still sprites default. There we go. That's the problem. I thought I could choose them both at the same time. Maybe I can't. Now there's a built-in easy way. You can come over here, sprite. Let's see, edit, render pipeline, and if you want to switch everybody over, you can do that. Upgrade scene to 2D renderer and so on. So if you want to upgrade all the materials, you can do that. I'm not going to do that because I like to jump back and forth between the old and the new. But now you'll notice these two are unlit. So we need to put a light in the scene, and we're going to do that. We're going to put now go to light 2D, and we're going to call it a point light. And so now there's a point light in the scene. And you'll notice as I get close there, let's increase the radius of the light there. And maybe increase the intensity. Where is there intensity here? All right, so the closer you get to the center of the light, the more intense it's going to be. Let's put that at the center of the world. 0, 0, and Z is 0. So now, if we go to the game even, let's play the game. You'll see that our hero, as he moves into the light, he is affected by that light. Cool, right? Now, you'll notice he doesn't cast any shadows or anything like that. That's a whole nother thing. So now, if we wanted to, we could say, well, okay, go to our hero again, and let's add a component to our hero, a shadow caster 2D. And let's look at our shadow caster 2D. Use renderer silhouette, casting shadows, self shadows. Okay, he's not going to cast shadows on himself, but he's going to cast shadows. And let's see, I don't know if that's going to, by default, be set up yet. Let's see here. Let's see, he's not casting shadows. Why? Well, we have to go to the point light and say that the point light will cast shadows. So we're going to cast shadows an intensity of 1. And now I believe, yeah, he's going to cast really, really sharp shadows there. Let's turn down that shadow intensity. And yeah, he casts a pretty sharp shadow. As he like jumped right in front of the light there. Kind of crazy. We might need to adjust his shadow mask some more. How do we do that? Let's see. Hero. Edit shape. There we go. So let's give him a little bit of a tighter shape. You could get kind of carried away here. So let's do that. That's a reasonable shape, I guess. So you'll notice now he only casts that after. So it's still pretty easy. These are kind of hard shadows here. Cast shadows, default, snapping. What was a way? I'm not familiar enough yet in terms of this casting some softer shadows. Intensity is still up high. Intensity of the light is on the high side. Fall off. So yeah, we have to sort of play around and get, fine tune. Lighting is always, lighting is an art. Um, so we'll leave that to a little bit of art, and just, it's, pretty cool. We need something to visualize where that light is, right? This is one of the situations where okay, here's the light, and I want to put a sprite where the light is, right? So you might say, well, let's find something to be a light. Sprites, RPG forest. Do you have anything? We need a little prop that'll be a light. Miscellaneous gems, hearts. Yeah, we'll do that like a gem. So maybe that gem here is just a tiny little thing. We need to change the import settings for that. All right, and we'll take the gem and we're going to parent that to the light, and we're going to give the gem an offset of 0, 0. So it'll be directly at the light. And let's see here. What can we do with the light? Inner angle, outer angle, radius. Inner radius. Let's give it a little bit of an inner radius here. There we go. And let's give it a try. See what it sounds like. Sounds like. Looks like. At least now we have a feel for where the light is coming from. That's kind of the cool thing, right? So we can stand in front of it, and it kind of makes more sense as we walk there. Okay, if I walk, stand on top of it, I block it all out, right? Cool.